I had an amazing time visiting Petra in Jordan. It's easy to travel independently through this nation and experience its rich history, culture, and natural beauty. In this video, I'll walk you through a visit to Petra, a true wonder of the world. Stay tuned for helpful hints on how to plan your own trip to this incredible place. A quick note, I have a longer, more detailed video on spending a full week in Jordan and visiting many of the other incredible sites besides Petra. From the jaw-dropping desert landscapes of Wadi Rum to floating in the Dead Sea or walking around the ancient Roman ruins of Jerash, there's tons to see and do in this country. The gateway to Petra is the village of Wadi Musa, which is about a 3-hour drive from Amman and just a little bit more than that from Aqaba. Although there's bus connections from both cities, you'll likely find that renting a car will save you a lot of time. I first visited Petra as a solo traveler way back in 2002. No surprise, there's a lot that's been built since then. Plenty of new roads, new hotels, a visitor center, a high-tech museum, and enhanced visitors' facilities are all welcome additions. Although the Treasury is the most well-known site in the city, there's hundreds of other temples, tombs, structures, and caves to explore. Entry to the site is through the new visitor center, then a walk down a 1-kilometer road to get to the entrance to the Sikh, which is a large crack running through the 80-meter tall cliffs that winds about 1.5 kilometers to end at the Treasury. The Sikh is magnificent in itself, but the anticipation that builds as you walk along it is crazy. Each corner you expect to have the Treasury be revealed until finally, there it is, breathtaking. For many visitors, it seemed they didn't go a whole lot further than this, and some just turned around here. The Treasury had by far the largest crowds of any other place, but it isn't even 1% of the city. From there, the canyon winds down the so-called Street of Facades until it opens into a large valley surrounded by tombs, cave houses, and an ancient amphitheater that was once capable of seating over 4,000 persons, and the remains of a number of large temples. The whole site is actually in far better condition than you would expect from a city that, except for small groups of Bedouin herders, has been pretty much abandoned for most of the last 1,500 years. If you haven't done any research before arriving and know little of the history of the region, I'd recommend you hire an official guide, either at the visitor center or beforehand online at Get Your Guide or a similar website. Since I'd visited before, and I'm a former history teacher, we went by ourselves and had no problems. Cell reception is good and major sites and trails are marked, so it's very difficult to get lost. And there are plenty of Bedouin vendors selling trinkets and refreshments all over the site. We arrived to Wadi Musa in the early afternoon, spent 2 nights, and didn't depart until noon the 3rd day. So we were able to spread out our visit a bit and go into Petra 3 times, twice for 3 hours and once for 6. But if you're really ambitious, you can see all the major sites in the ancient city with one very long, probably 10+ hour day. Although I'm pretty fit, given the intense daytime temperatures when we arrived in late June, 10 hours on my feet in that heat would be more of a punishment than an adventure. Although we spread our sightseeing out over 3 visits, all of what we saw could have been seen in 2 days. So let's just go through what we visited. On our first afternoon, we walked down the Sikh, went to the Treasury, and walked amongst some of the high caves and royal tombs. We attempted to do the Al-Qubta trail to the high overlook over the Treasury, but it was closed. So we turned around, headed back to the hotel. Total walking was around 10 kilometers. The next day was our only full day, so we got up early, and we were some of the first through the park gates when it opened at 6:30. We arrived at the Treasury, and there were less than 5 other people there. It was magical. We took some photos, headed through the valley past all the closed vendors and shops to the trail to access the monastery. We only encountered 1 other person on the trail, and although much of it was still in the shade, I'm really glad we went early, because even then, before 8 a.m., it was a hot, sweaty climb up thousands of stairs. When we arrived at the monastery, other than a couple of Bedouin shopkeepers, we were the only people there. That's the perk of getting up early. We had the site entirely to ourselves for about 30 minutes until a few hiking groups who had gone on the backdoor trail arrived. Soon after, we headed down, we got a cold drink at the Nabatean restaurant, then decided to try the Al-Qubta trail to the High Treasury overlook again, but it was still closed. I've since heard that this trail is permanently shut down. Anyway, the total hiking for the day was about 16 kilometers. Our 3rd and final day, we again got up early and were some of the first through the park gates. Of course, we had to stop and snap a few more photos at the empty Treasury before we continued to hike to the place of high sacrifice, which is an altar of ceremonial importance. Although the altar is interesting, The panoramic views of the entire valley below are what really makes this hike worthwhile. We looked around a bit, then returned back the way we came with a total walk of around 9 kilometers. We then checked out of our hotel and headed to Aqaba. So here's some of my recommendations for Petra. There's no need to hire a horse to take you from the entrance gate to the start of the Sikh. It's less than a kilometer. The persistent horse guys will tell you it's free, but a very generous tip is expected. And if you're in relatively good health, there's no need to hire a golf cart to take you from the visitor center to the treasury for 15 Jordanian dinars one way or 25 Jordanian dinars return per person. This is extortionately expensive. Only do this if you're mobility impaired and would not be able to walk the 4 kilometers each way otherwise. It's entirely downhill going there, so if you think you might need transport, just get it on the way back. Although the Sikh is paved, all the rest of the trails are dirt, sand, and rock. There's few safety railings and plenty of unmarked drop-offs. For your own safety, wear sturdy hiking shoes or boots. I saw some ridiculous footwear choices on a few visitors, ranging from flip-flops to even high heels. Dress sensibly. It was a high of 34 degrees, with not a cloud in the sky all 3 days we were there. I saw people wearing dark colors, tight jeans, party wear, no hats or backpack, and carrying no water. And although rural Jordan is still quite traditional, Western clothing like shorts and sleeveless shirts are perfectly fine to wear inside Petra. If you're hiking past the treasury and it's summer, bring at least 1 liter of water per person. And if you're going to the monastery, double that. Too much is better than not enough. If you did not bring a backpack or are in a pinch, vendors do sell overpriced water in the park. In the morning, taxi drivers parked outside the visitor center will pitch you a trip to the back entrance to Little Petra that'll get you on the trail to the monastery before the crowds. Doing this will cost you about 15 to 20 Jordanian dinars and save you a few steps, but no time, since that entrance opens 30 minutes later than the main gate, and it's the same length of hike with just a bit less in elevation change. So if you're a fit hiker and on a limited budget, get up early, skip the back entrance, go through the main gate right when it opens, and charge. You'll get to the monastery at least 20 to 30 minutes before anyone else and have few to no vendors pitching to you on the way up or down. Wadi Musa has tons of accommodations for every budget, but we stayed at the Petra Moon Hotel. It's immediately outside the park gate, just across the street from the Petra Museum. It was very comfortable, clean, and well managed. The staff were very friendly and helpful, and I felt it offered a great value for the price. We paid 62 Jordanian dinar per night for an ensuite room with 2 beds, and a bonus was the hotel has a sparkling rooftop swimming pool and terrace, which was amazing after a dusty and sweaty hike. Consider buying the Jordan Pass before you enter the country if you're staying at least 3 nights and visiting Petra. It'll save you money. I have a separate short video on that linked in the description. So in closing, I've been to a lot of the Earth's wonders, from the Taj Mahal or the Great Wall to the pyramids and Machu Picchu. And I'll tell you, Petra equals or exceeds them. And in a lot of ways, the entire site of Petra is one of the most magical places you'll find anywhere. Again, I have a longer, more detailed video on spending an entire week in Jordan and visiting many of the other incredible sites besides Petra. Thanks for tuning in. A subscribe is sincerely appreciated, and it's what helps me to continue the channel.